Hey, I'm Joe. I'm going to be working again on my 1979 Honda CBX. So today I have the challenge of reinstalling my carburetors. There's 6 of them. So we'll see how this goes. This is tricky because I have a limited space to work in. The engine's supposed to be leaned forward when you get these back in, but I'm not using the airbox, so I'm going to do it with the engine right side up. I've installed 6 carbs on a CBX in the past, and it did take me a little while and a bunch of tools. So we'll see how we do today. All right, enjoy. So here is the current state of the CBX. So I've got the carbs just sitting here right now. I've got a towel underneath, and this is just going to help prevent or at least limit any damage to this engine. The carbs, I did end up just vapor blasting the bowls as well as the tops. Can't remember what the tops are called. You can still see that the body of the carburetors is a little corroded. I did get a recommendation from my neighbor who works on a lot of different cars. He said there's some aluminum polish that may work well on this, so I may give that a shot once I get the carbs back on. But the process today is I need to connect the throttle cables as well as the choke cable into the carburetor, which is difficult because I have to go in from the top and loop them around. The other challenge is this is not a throttle cable from an official CBX. This is actually throttle cable from the Suzuki clip-ons that I have installed. So I know they do work. You just have to finagle them a little bit. So I will do my best to try and get that in. Now, since I have a different top fork bridge, the choke usually mounts up here, and I want to try and keep this a little cleaner. So luckily, the previous owner, actually I don't think it was the previous owner, it was probably the owner before that who did most of this work, installed the choke right here. So he did end up actually drilling through this bracket, and then you can see the choke cable runs here. I do want to leave the choke on this bike because the choke really does serve a purpose. I know on some bikes it doesn't, but on the CBX it does. It has helped me in the past. So this is going to mount right here, and then it will pull up on this piece. And I'm actually going to test this first just to make sure this does work as intended. So this choke cable is going to run down through here, and then it's going to loop through. We'll just rotate it a bit, and then it is supposed to mount right here. So I have a little right angle screwdriver for times like this. And let's see. Okay, so it doesn't actually tighten. So that will be something I need to try and fix. So if I could actually get that to stay, and I pull this, so it does not look like this works smoothly at all. I want to make sure that this returns to rest when I push out. So really it needs to return to there. So if I can at least hold this in place. See, the issue is even when I push this forward, this does not slide. So that is not going to work. So I need to determine if there's a way that I can do this. Or I could figure out how to actually mount a choke. That may work better. So I will see if I have a choke cable that's standard length, and maybe I can figure out a better place to mount it. So I have a spare. I don't think it goes to the CBX, but I would like to try it and see what it looks like. Well, it does look like it's the right length. That's a good sign. All right, so even when the screw is tight, it looks like this is still moving. So I'm gonna have to bend this down to see if I can actually have it clamp better on this. Let's say if this was actually set up properly, it does look like it would work properly as a choke. So that may be the way to go. I will just have to figure out where I want to mount this. So first, let's see if we can get this clamped down so that it actually holds that in place. Let's try this first. Yeah, see how even when... See, this needs to be brought down. This needs to hold the piece. So let's do this. And this is gonna be up against a flat surface when it clamps down. So I think that's where I want it to be. So as I tighten it down, it should hold this in place without actually contacting the other side. So now we'll give that a shot, see if that's what we want. Now, the reason I have to keep modifying pieces and testing like this is because whoever made a bunch of these modifications to the bike did change a lot of things, so I'm not sure what's still factory, so I'm making modifications to just try and fit what I need. And then we'll tighten it down. All right, and then we'll test. Yeah, that works great. That works the way it should. So I think we need to figure out how to use this. So I'm pretty sure this was a choke cable that I had designed to work with. I think it was one of the other bikes. And then I ended up removing the carbs, and then I went with a different carburetor setup that didn't need this choke cable. But I mean, this one works extremely well. I'm going to look and see if there's a way that I can mount this. Because even if I don't mount it in the same location, that would still work well for this bike. All right, so the choke does look like it's the easiest cable to mount, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. I know I'll be able to find a place to mount it. So I need to get the other throttle cables connected to the carburetor. And I'm gonna see how is best to do this. I'm also going to take off, I had already swapped this back, but I'm gonna take off this choke cable here because I'm not going to use it. This would be a good location to mount that other choke as well, if I could make it work. Okay, I'm just going to unscrew this. I should be able to pull this out. So it does look like I can just pull this out. So here is how I have the two throttle cables running right now. So they're running down here. And then when the carbs are mounted, the throttle cables are going to be about here, which looks like it's a little excessive. So as I'm moving the handlebars left and right, I think this is going to be a little too long, and it may hit the tank that's going to be hanging over here. So what I'm thinking about is maybe taking these cables and running them around the front suspension and then down. That may remove a bunch of this slack and make it sit better. I just worry that these cables are going to be a little tight wrapping around that front fork. I'm also curious if there's a way that I can just remove these cables. That way I can install them with the carb off the bike, and then I can route them, because it'll be much easier for me to get this end on than get this end on. So I'm gonna loosen this and see what I can do up here. So it looks like it's one Phillips, and then it looks like there's another Phillips here. So it should allow me to move that, but I think I have to take off this bar end cap. I may not even end up using these because I need cafe mirrors, and I usually mount them to the end here. So now, curious to see what's it going to take to get this off. Now what I'm hoping is, since these are factory mounts, there may be a place where this screws into the bar and that prevents this from rotating forward and backwards. It's not great if I want to adjust the height of these, but it is nice if I like where the stock height is. All right, so the front screws out. Working on this back screw. Looks like they're separated. And this should allow me to remove these cables. Front one, here's the back one. And then there's also a screw here that's holding these in. All right, so this rubber piece is to the front. All right, so I can pull these out here. I can wrap this back around. So it doesn't look like, actually it does. So yes, there is a spot in this handlebar where this clips in. So to test this theory, I can wrap cables around this direction and potentially get them to screw back in. It doesn't look like, well, we'll see what happens when we actually get them mounted, but we'll see if these look crimped or not. But it seems like we can install these after these are connected to the carburetor. So that's what I'll do. I'll get these installed, make sure these cables are routed, and then we'll figure out the best placement for them. I think that'll make the most sense. So now I'll pull the carburetor out. I'll grab the throttle cables. So it'll just take a little patience to route them. So now when these are mounted, it's mounted like this. And then when I pull the throttle down, it's going to pull this rubber one. All right, so I was able to get that to catch. So to get this other one, going to try coming in like this. There we go. And then I need to screw this on. So it looks like it came out. Oh, this is fun. Now we'll pull it like that. All right, so test looks good. So now I can get the carbs in place, and then I'll route the throttle cables where I want them to be. I also need to tighten these up so they don't move. So I do need to make sure I can route these throttle cables. The engine mounts, which I think I did. So I routed the throttle cables down the left side of the bike. This may actually work without crimping the cables because it looks like it's the right length. Now a couple things before I start installing the carbs. So each one of these has a direction that you install. So I have this band clamp, so the inside one, the one that connects to the engine block, these are all on the bottom. And then on 6 and 5 cylinder, I have the screws, and these are for the carb bands. So I have these on the top, and then on the number 4 carb, I have it on the bottom because I'm gonna have a difficult time getting a screwdriver in around this engine mount. So I did the same thing on the other side. Then also before I start installing this, I have a silicone lubricant that I'm going to put around the inside of each of these carbs. So now that that's done, I can start lining the carbs up. I'm trying to make sure nothing's in the way. Does not look like it. All these band clamps are loose, so that shouldn't prevent carbs from sliding in. So I can feel 6 and 5 are in, but 4 is not. But I need to go over to the other side. I think 3 is the other one I have to get in. So I think one of the other things that's gonna help me get these carbs on is a clamp. So this clamp is gonna help me hold the carb on here while I try and get the other side in. So it does look like 4 is in a good spot. 3, however, is not. All right, so since 5 and 6 are in, I'm gonna screw down on these clamps. Let's see if this will help hold it. And see if I can move this clamp to the other side. So if I loosen this, carbs are still in place. Place this on the other side. See if I can get these to line up. It does seem like they're close. I'm gonna put some eyeglasses on in case something snaps and hits me in the face, which is always a possibility. So we are close. Just gonna work this up and down a little bit. See if I can get it to move. Cool. So it looks like this side is in now. All right, so it looks like it just clamped in. So it looks like we are good on both sides. It looks like carb is in a good spot. So I'll go around and tighten down each one of these band clamps. Okay, I'll tighten 6 and 5. And then I'll tighten 1, tighten 2. I'm holding the clamp in place on 2 and 5, just so it's in a good spot so that I can keep tightening it without it moving around. So now I'm going to pull this towel out from underneath. It does seem like from the bottom of 3, I cannot get to the screw. So I'm gonna have to rotate it. Just sworn from the bottom was correct, but apparently not. So unfortunately, I gotta figure out how to rotate that band clamp around. So I'm gonna have to try going underneath, seeing if I can somehow pull it past this screw. Which looks like a horrible task. I was able to get cylinder 4 screwed in. So I just had to undo this, scoot it over. I was able to rotate this up. And then from the top, I was able to put a screwdriver with an extension in. And then I was able to tighten that right there. Now I need to do the same thing on the other side. All right, so I'm gonna unscrew cylinder 3. This is the clamp that goes to the engine. All right, so this is moving now. All right, so the screw's up now. Now we need to use a tool like this to reach it. All right, so finally got it to a place where I can hold it and screw it in from the other side. Okay, so that's tight. And the last thing I need to tighten down is the inside of cylinder 3. All of these clamps are now tight. Next, let's get the throttle back on. So we'll slide this on first. Actually, I'll put the wiring through first. I'll slide this on. This is gonna mount right there. Slide on the throttle tube. Make sure these are not twisted. Gonna reduce the twisting as much as possible. So the silver goes in the back.
And the black rubber piece goes up front. So I got that on. So it looks like that's seated properly. So it looks like there's an adjustment. So I'm gonna tighten the adjustment as much as I can. See if that gives me slack. It looks like we're pretty close. Pull this up just a little bit. So that looks good. Looks like that's seated properly now. Okay, that looks good. So I'll screw in this piece to hold cables in. Just hand tighten this real quick. Put the screws back in. So the throttle cables are very tight running around this part of the bike. So I'm gonna have to loosen it because that's not gonna work. Because I can't pull the handlebars all the way to the right. So that was a good try. But it does look like I have full throttle control, so that's perfect. I just need to route these wires to the inside instead of the outside. Yep, throttle feels good. Doesn't look like the cables get pinched anywhere. Looks like I got full movement. I think that's where we want it. All right, so last step is to get the choke cable on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove my rigged bracket for this. And this should be able to unscrew. Let's see if it comes off the other end. Yep, it does. So that looks good. Let's see if we can use this existing hole. So I'm gonna feed this in through here. And then I'm gonna feed the choke cable up. Does look like that's a pretty significant tilt up. Wow, you got up there. So let's try running it down here a little bit. Let's see if this feels any better. I think I actually need to run it in between these cables. So run it in between the throttle cables. That does feel good. And then we'll run it up, say up and around here. We just have to make sure we keep it clear of the tank. So maybe let's run it down around the front of the frame. So this will keep it away from the tank. Still doesn't feel like it's binding. I should be able to run this down, mount it here. That looks about right. I'll get that in there. It does feel pretty good. That's one thing I forgot is the piece that screws on. Okay, so it looks like I was able to thread it 4 or 5 times, which should be good. All right, so now we have choke installed right here. And that will work great for us. So we have the cable that's routed down here around the front of the frame down here and ends up right there. So now we have fully functional carburetor that's installed. That's it for tonight. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, subscribe and then you'll get notifications when I release new ones on my project. Take care.